Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure for me to welcome the panelists for this very interesting session on startups. I think you've heard a lot about investments in the southern markets, and there's been talk about the three I's of innovate, invest, and invent, in Karnataka. But I think these three I's really apply to all the markets and all the states in India. So let me start by welcoming Ms. Meena Ganesh, CEO and MD of Portia Medical. Ms. Ganesh, please. Yeah, a round of applause, guys. It's well past lunch, and I think we are heading towards tea, so be a little enthusiastic on this. The next panelist is Mr. Murugavel Janakiraman, CEO of BharatMatrimony.com. And I have a very interesting anecdote to share with you. I was asking him what does his name mean, and he says it means, and I'm repeating this, I did that at a forum, and he says his name means, a son of Shiva. And I said, you also have Janki in your name, so you couldn't have done anything better than setting up a matrimony site. Yeah, so you've got, Muruga and you've got Janaki there. Yeah, so I'm repeating Muruga, but pardon me for that. May I welcome Mr. R. Chandrasekhar, President NASSCOM, please. Welcome, sir. Yeah. It's indeed an extreme pleasure to be, talking to panelists of such high esteem for me. Just to set the tone of the discussion of the panel, I would like to just share some stats with you where I think India is absolutely fast forwarding itself in the startup zone. Yeah, it's as per one of the NASSCOM reports, it says that India is the number third country which is leading in the startup domain, only after US and UK. And also, if you look at how the Indian states are contributing, I think South all put together is contributing to more than 40%, with Bangalore obviously heading the charts in terms of a 26%. I think Hyderabad is at about 8 and Chennai is at about 6. So 40%, more than 40% of startup contribution is actually happening from a state, from the southern zone, which I think is absolutely commendable. Yeah. Also, the fact is that, when you're talking about entrepreneurs, and I know you both have been entrepreneurs there is, it's very interesting, but it's also very frustrating because you have an idea and you don't have the money to really have that idea see the light of the day, and that's when it gets really, really frustrating. So today you're seeing that, it's an age, as one of the ministers was mentioning, that, India's 65% of India's generation is in the millennial zone. They are all 20 to 35 years of age. And today, rather than us telling those guys to actually do something, I think we're all learning from the millennials. As to, they are the ones who care for the country. They want to find solutions to a problem, and they want to do really something big. And that's what really is the biggest asset in our country today, which is called the startups, and which is the startup domain. So I would like to, start with you, Mr. Chandrasekhar. On the NASSCOM front, I mean, you are doing your, 10K startup program, which is in collaboration with the various state, governments as well. How do you think, how favorably is South as a market really, in terms of fostering this whole startup domain?
Anita, I think it's now well recognized that a bulk of the IT capabilities and competencies from the country happen to come from the South. Reasons may be many, and it's for researchers to figure out why, but that's the statistical situation.
Sure.
So the kind of entrepreneurship that we see and need in the startup ecosystem, especially in the technology-related areas, requires a combination of two things: knowledge of technology and an entrepreneurial sort of urge. In the South, I think we've had a very strong presence of technical talent. Entrepreneurship may have been a little lower or sort of average compared to the rest of the country. But if you compare that, say, with some of the states, for example, Gujarat is a state which is known to be very, very entrepreneurial, but not necessarily very strong in terms of technology capability. So for today's generation, I think this entrepreneurial part of it is coming along with the technical capability. And again, there are a variety of reasons. People are a little more confident. They are not immediately in need of a job in order to earn their living. They are, economically better off. And it's a very fortunate generation because you can do three things simultaneously. You can, change the whole environment around you, which everyone in their youth wants to do. You can do it through technology, which has become more powerful, which can deal with, reach scale. You can get a lot of satisfaction because I'm sure you will hear from her how much of satisfaction you get by being able to reach medical care to people who are not able to get it. And third, while doing both of them, you can also make a ton of money if you play it right. So to be able to do all these three things together is really a unique opportunity. And I think the South, therefore, because of the strong technology, talent and the track record, is well placed, and that's why they account for almost 50% of the startups today.
Yeah, so that's interesting because, the three things that you mentioned, I think they are across because any startup needs to be technologically very, very, very savvy and has to have an idea which is a solution to a problem. And also, as long as it's making business sense, it's where it takes that. So following that question to you, Meena, really, I mean, you've been promoting a lot of these startups. So how do you see South, holding up these startups?
Thanks, Anita. I would echo what Mr. Chandrasekhar said. What I would also say that some of this is serendipity and it grows on itself. So the more you get similar-minded people together, the more you see that, for instance, you look at Bangalore, it just happened that, of course, there was an IT hub, but also as startups started to come and you learn from each other and you grow by learning and you have the right milieu, you have advisors, you have funders, everything starts to come together. So there is a tipping point that a city like Bangalore reached quite early, maybe 6-7 years back, and thereafter it's just grown dramatically because of all the pressures coming together. So there's a bit of that also. What is interesting in what Chandrasekhar said is that South has never been known to be very, very entrepreneurial. And people like me, we come from typical Tambram, go to engineering, go get a job, and stay there forever kind of families. But we also got sucked into this because the environment offered that kind of an ability to do. So I think there's something to be said about the forces coming together. Now, once that has happened, in the last 6-7 years, that you look at a city like Bangalore, where I come from, this has become the thing. And everybody, you go to any bar, you go to a coffee place, you go to a restaurant, you go to places where people meet, they are talking about startups. So the environment has changed so drastically that it is no longer something that they do, but it's something that everybody does. So that big, huge city transformation that has happened is really exciting. And there are a lot of hubs that have got created. Indiranagar is a hub, Koramangala is a hub. Any Starbucks that you go there, you will see some people sitting there on a laptop and discussing some new project ideas. So it's just changed the whole thinking, which then percolated to the people down the line. So the new graduates no longer think of getting a job as their claim to fame, but not getting a job and being jobless so that they can use the time to think about a new idea which can change the world is what they're thinking of. It's very interesting.
So it's interesting, it's the environment which is changing, it is the opportunities which are there, and I think it's more to do with how differently today's youth or the millennial is actually talking and thinking, because everybody is sitting down and looking at some ideas. They want to get it funded. They don't want to be engineers, doctors any longer. There are alternative options available in terms of their careers today. So Muruga, for you started Matrimony, as you say, in the South, right? And you then went on to do a pan-India expansion for it. Was South not enough, I know pan-India expansion is there, but since the topic is to actually look at South, was South not enough, or did it not give you enough opportunities? Or
no, advantage of internet companies is that we are not limited by geography, so we can take it across the globe. And good to see that already, many companies in India, they're not looking at only India as a market. In fact, South already have a couple of SaaS-based companies. In fact, they are looking at the entire world as a market. So that's the beauty of internet. Sitting in one part of the India, we can look at the entire world as a market. So basically, since you're a matrimony company, obviously, you want to kind of take it to wherever Indians are
Get
there.
everybody married
Yeah,
across
everyone
India.
get married, and so Indians across the globe. You are not currently limited only to the Indians across the globe. We have launched services for even other country people also. We have Pakistani matrimony, Sri Lankan matrimony, Bangla matrimony, even Arab matrimony. So we are looking at wherever the matrimony is relevant, taking that our service to those markets.
Isn't matrimony relevant everywhere? I mean,
no, it's a vary from market to market, because the way the kind of Southeast Asian get married, once our finalize a life partner, we then get married. Compared to other markets where US and Europe, and they date and then decide whether to get married or not. So it's completely different. Here, if someone create a profile in Bharat Matrimony, the intention is to once you find a right life partner, get married. So it's a completely culturally it's different the way we get married too, than compared to other people.
okay, so interesting. So much that we are discussing about South, I think we can do. Entrepreneurship is something which applies across states as far as our country is concerned, and not only across states, I think across the globe. So that's the way one looks at entrepreneurship and startups. Question to you, Mr. Chandrasekhar, and I'm going back to the 10,000 startup program, and I was going through your website to see as to what all you guys do, and it's interesting because you do from seed funding up to growth capital, and you offer these guys all the startups a platform to actually go and look at other corporates and present their cases, and hence maybe get funded or whatever it is. So do you think that the existing incubators which are there in the country, and I maybe it's incorrect on my part to say you are an incubator, but the way I look at it is that you are actually incubating the whole startup culture and giving them opportunities to grow. So do you think it is enough, because there is one NASSCOM and there aren't multiple NASSCOMs, right? I don't know how many others are really doing this kind of incubation. Is it enough? I mean, are you able to hold hands with the startups and take them to the logical progression that they would want to get to?
Yeah, I would like to think of ourselves as an incubator plus, because there's a whole lot of things that we do apart from the incubation per se. The second thing is it's not NASSCOM alone which is doing this stuff. There are a whole lot of other incubators, accelerators by a number of private companies, large multinational companies as well. And in fact, many of the large companies have actually set up incubators on their own, within their own units, where they encourage not only their employees to play around and experiment with ideas, but also welcome people, from outside to come and use those facilities. They mentor them and they do all of that. And it's not philanthropy at work. It is actually very enlightened self-interest which is driving all of this. And that's because today in the IT sector is changing very rapidly. And the demands of the clients who it serves are also changing very rapidly. And there is a big premium on innovation. And every company finds it difficult to source all the innovation that they need to be at the cutting edge of competition internally. So you need to bring in as much innovation as you can from outside. So by encouraging entrepreneurs to come in, especially in areas that are of interest to you, by keeping a sharp eye on which kind of companies are coming up, what kind of things they are doing, and either entering into a business relationship with them or acquiring them or finding some other kind of commercial partnership arrangement. So all of this has led to a whole rash of such incubators, accelerators, driven by a number of such motivations. But most importantly, they also enable connect to funding, they enable connect to mentorship, they enable connect to large companies. That's another special strength which NASSCOM brings, because we have a lot of large companies also as our members, almost all of them actually. And therefore, the connect between the small and the large companies also is something that we facilitate. In fact, we have the NASSCOM Industry Partners Program, which is focused solely on that. And a lot of these companies are companies from all over the world. So in a sense, you may be a small startup with 10 people, but if you're doing something interesting, something innovative, and something which has potential, the eyes of the world are on you. And this is a platform which enables all of that to happen.
So, yeah.
So, can I add something on the incubation and what, there's a lot of things that are going on, but there's one piece that I feel which is still missing, which is a link with academia. I think it's absolutely critical for us to find brilliant ideas and research work that's going on in very good institutions, whether it's IITs or in the Indian Institute of Science or some of the other very good institutions which are doing cutting edge research or should be doing cutting edge research which can then be monetized. Now, the lack of that connect, I think, is the problem. If there is some way by which there could be a lot more of incubators or incubation activities happening in these institutions, I think we would also be able to find some really top-notch companies. All said and done, today from India, the number of cutting-edge products that go out are still very limited. I'm sure you would agree with me, Chandrasekhar, it is still just starting up. And that, I think that's something which is still a miss which needs to change in what's happening in India.
Okay, so basically what I'm hearing is that, yeah, there is a lot of incubators there are, apart from NASSCOM and many others. And they are obviously working towards, propping up the startup cultures and helping them get whatever stuff that they want from information up to, leading up to there. But if I was to typically ask you this question to do with the South, how would you answer that?
I think the South has probably a larger than the lion's share of incubators. If you just look at Bangalore alone, I don't have statistics, but I've met so many people, both individuals or private companies, private incubators as well as incubators of large companies which are doing exactly what Chandrasekhar said. I also think that that's one of the ways by which they engage their millennials. To your point, millennials need to be driven with an objective and with a passion of wanting to make some big difference. And this is a way by which they can engage the millennials within their organization, get a lot of ideas from millennials. So we see a lot of those. We see incubators, we see mentoring programs, we see women-specific programs for both funding women or supporting women or giving women that little extra confidence in some cases to go and build companies. So yeah, you see many different shades of that.
Murga, you've been there almost for 2 decades now. I think the situation when you started off in early 2000 was very different. I don't know whether any incubators really existed at that point in time, and you with your brilliant idea on getting people married and increasing the population, you've, I don't know what you've done from then to now. How do you see this change? Because when you started, obviously, you must have had the spark, you had an idea, I'm sure you had enough money to fund it and to take it on online. And then now almost 2 decades passed. How do you see things have changed?
Yeah, definitely it's completely different now. When he started, it's not that I had a money. So since I didn't have money right from the beginning, kept it as a paid service. That's one of the reasons today we are making money. Unlike contrary to that point of time, internet, everything's supposed to be free, that you try to monetize the traffic-based advertisement. Since I didn't have the money and was not able to raise money because I started right after the dot-com bubble that has happened in 2000. So, and in fact, we got our first round of funding. After 6 years, we ventured into the matrimony. In fact, we raised only limited capital, only $20 million. In fact, that point of time, we used to think the objective is to take the company to a $1 billion company. The dream is once you make the company a $1 billion market cap, we feel like, wow, it's a great success. Today, raising $1 billion has become an easy thing, completely changed compared to, raising a $10 million was a challenge too. Today, the companies are even raising $1 billion. So much of money definitely is available. And the companies, while we have taken so much time to grow to, the current level because we had a time to our advantage, but things are different now. Today, people are going after the growth instead of the, kind of the money being available. They are looking at fast-forwarding things and accelerating. Again, it comes with its own challenges. But having said that, yeah, the things changed us because that point of time, not so many entrepreneurs, and the ecosystem was different. Today, we are talking about when we started hardly a few million users. Today, we are talking about 300 million users, mobile internet growth, 4G, funding available, startup ecosystem, entrepreneurs no more of taboo. In fact, recently done a study in bharatmatrimony.com. How many people are willing to marry entrepreneur? Yeah. So many people are saying, yeah, willing to marry entrepreneur. It was not the case. In fact, I remember people coming and saying, look, people don't want to get married entrepreneur because there's uncertainty. Today, there's interest about kind of people want to get married entrepreneurs. So definitely things have changed. So
I'm sure the wives are looking at the funding that the investors are bringing into the entrepreneurs.
Yes,
so it makes it very lucrative marriage propositions.
Yeah.
Another question that I had was that, in the South and typically in Bangalore, as we were discussing, you have information and communication technology being the base of everything. And very, very fast adaptation of this particular ICT, as you call it, is taking place within the youngsters today and the millennials today. So they are looking at basing their forward-going professional career from ICT. So how do you think that information technology and communication, etc., how is that really helping these guys to look at it as a more valid professional opportunity going forward? Because, anything, and as you rightfully said in the beginning, anything and everything has got technology as the base. So when you talk of startup, you have to be technologically very, very savvy, and only then you can start up, as they say. So how do you look at this as a career, and what would you be telling these millennials?
Can I have a very contrary opinion on this?
Sure.
Because I believe that technology has to be a support for a great business idea, which is going to solve a real business problem. Using technology as a solution, I mean, that has to follow a real world solution.
Absolutely.
So if everybody thinks that just because there is a technology which is cool, which is going to be exciting, and a lot of people are going to adopt it, I don't think that can be the base for a startup. And that is a mistake that some people do make. I mean, I'm sure there's a place for the Snapchats of the world where you take a picture, you give it to somebody, 3 seconds later it disappears, you wonder why on earth are people doing, and that gets valued. There's a place for that. But I think in India, it's about solving some of the basic problems, whether it's education or healthcare or getting people together to live their lives together. There are so many fundamental problems that need to be solved, and yes, technology can help make that a success, but first let's find the real problem. So if you put the cart before the horse, I think that's not how a startup should be formed, thinking that, yeah, I have a technology, what do I do with it?
Yeah, I kind of absolutely agree with you, because to me there are two kinds of people. Those are the ones who are absolutely the ICT guys, and they think they have the wherewithal and the background to go and do it, and they are the ones who have got the ideas. And then they look for ICT guys to actually, make their ideas really come alive to that extent.
That shows Meena is not a technology person. I come from technology. I did my master's. So anyway, I agree with her. It's the technology enabler, but it depends on how people see it. So people who start with technology as a base and become an entrepreneur, and people who are entrepreneur use technology enabler and all those things. So you have both the kind of people.
So like I said, you're two kinds I have here. One is a non-technology person full of ideas. One is a technology person also full of ideas, and she's got the technology.
Just to clarify, I started my career in a technology company.
There.
So at the
you're
heart,
wrong.
I am a technologist, but I believe that the idea is the one. And in your case also, I mean, the problem is that you were solving is that people didn't know how to get together, right? And then technology can form the solution. That's my view.
So I'm completely going by Muruga's information. So here, Mr. Chandrasekhar, question to you. I mean, we are hearing about lots of these funding schemes by Niti Aayog. The central government also funding a lot of these startup things. How do you think that is helpful in the whole scheme of things today?
Yeah, you see, personally, I believe that in the stage of angel funding and the venture capital, the government's role is very, very limited, because these are not the kind of decisions which governments are typically good at making. And I can say that with some confidence, having been in the government myself. So, but there are certain areas where private sector is not very good at funding. And especially in the very early stages of startups, people get interested in a startup only at a certain stage. And if you look at a lot of the US-based VCs and so on, they have certain concepts in terms of the ticket size and the 3x return in so much time and things like that, which may or may not be relevant when you are trying to solve a very local problem at a cost, at a price point which makes sense for a country like India. So I think that it's important that the government very carefully targets its support to those segments which are not covered by the private sector funding arrangements. Because the reality is that today there is more capital chasing less ideas. So anyone who has a really good idea will not find it too difficult to get money. But at the very early stage, when you just have an idea, nobody will fund you. You have to do something, you have to put in some effort and bring it to a stage where people say, yes, they've got something more than the idea. They've actually, tried to convert it into an actual project. And even that stage requires a certain amount of money. So recognizing those ideas which are particularly relevant for solving the kind of, problems that we had, what, Meena just talked about, problems in areas like agriculture, energy, and education and skilling and so on and so forth. So in some of those areas, I think there is a role for the government, but the biggest role can actually come by absorbing those, those innovations. And government can play a big role in being the first adopter of some of these innovative solutions. That's a far bigger support that the government can provide than by providing a few.
Even at state level, that does not happen. I can
Sorry?
understand. I said even at the state government level, that doesn't happen as much.
It's beginning to happen. I think the good news is that, again, partly, in our dialogue also, we have been able to put across that this is what is important, because by recognizing that, yes, the solution which has been created is something which is appreciated and which actually is deployed, that gives instant credibility as well as a jump start to a particular entrepreneur. So there are these kinds of things which the governments can do. Second is that NASSCOM itself, when we have set up these warehouses, or which is another name for Incubator Plus Plus, a lot of them, in fact all of them, have been strongly supported by the state government. So typically the model is the state government provides the funding and the space and all that stuff. And we bring in a lot of the soft linkages in terms of mentorship, in terms of bringing together the funders and providing all the kinds of guidance which they need. So that's a partnership which has worked extremely well, and therefore I think the government's role in all of this, as well as in easing the whole regulatory environment. A lot has been done in the recent past, starting with the whole, Startup India and Stand Up India initiative. But these are the areas, I think, where the government support has been most valuable for the startup ecosystem.
So that's interesting. I mean, if the government doesn't support the ideas and the startups, then obviously, like you said, that there are there is a lot of funding, but there are fewer ideas. But my question is that if there are ideas there which you wait for it to reach to a certain level, then the fear there is that lots of ideas might just, good ideas might just get killed. So if those ideas are taken to a certain level, at least where there is a possibility of scalability, then at least, maybe, the government should help those guys who have those ideas but don't know really whether they'll be scalable or not scalable.
In fact, we are actually working closely with the government even as we speak on a program which is actually aimed at identifying people who have these kind of ideas and who are able to demonstrate the ability to convert that idea into an actual working prototype with various partners. So to help them to reach that stage, as well as to help them to take the next step in terms of attracting funding and then being able to go the whole 9 yards for developing the whole project. So that's the kind of thing that we are again working with the government. That requires a lot of things, including reaching this message to far corners of the country. Because while a lot of high technical skills may reside in relatively more urban areas, because that's where the educational centers are, the monopoly on ideas is not an urban monopoly.
Right.
That is there all over in the hinterland also. And an idea is also related to a recognition of a problem. So to the uninitiated, you may see a problem, but to an entrepreneur, every problem represents an opportunity. And that kind of mindset is there in the rural area. Some might argue that it's even more in those areas. So to bring together the power of today's technologies, which are extremely powerful, and the innate problem recognition and problem solving capability that resides all over the country, and to be able to, in a sense, marry these two together with or without Muruga's help is really, I think, the challenge for us, because our problems are not going to be solved simply by adopting technology. It's going to be solved only by adapting and further extending the technologies. So the time has come now for a little more of deep technology startups which also have a product, not just applying technology to a business idea.
Sure, thanks. You wanted to add something?
Yes, I also wanted to add that the role of the government has to be to smoothen the path for all of us to do our jobs, whether it is being able to start a company and close down a company, simple things like that. And of course, there are a whole host of things, whether it's tax or whether it's related to angel investment. So there are a number of
Ease of doing it.
Yeah, the ease of being a startup country. There's a lot of work that still needs to happen in that.
So in the
Yes,
interest of time, sorry.
Definitely, southern states are competing with each other, but definitely I represent, it's coming from Tamil Nadu, definitely Tamil Nadu has to do a lot more, because look at a southern state, Karnataka has its own, startup policy, Telangana has a tier, and Kerala has their own startup village, but Tamil Nadu definitely need to do a lot more to kind of get more number of startup and all those things, so that, South gets much more share of startups and all that.
Sure. So interesting round of discussions here, and I think I've summed up as we've gone along. Just one last question and one line from each one of you. What do you think are the main ingredients for becoming a successful entrepreneur? And can I start with you?
A little bit of madness. So to believe that you can actually change something around you. And so that said, you need to have an idea, you need to have enormous amount of perseverance, because there will be ups and downs. You might be a successful entrepreneur at one level, you start something else, it's not so easy. So that's, to me, perseverance and madness.
So that last one was the one line, perseverance and madness. Mr. Chandrasekhar.
I think for a technology entrepreneur, the ability to perceive the potential of an idea and its ability to scale quickly and to scale to an enormous extent, and the ability to put these together with technology. I think that, driven by the burning desire is, I think, one thing which characterizes all entrepreneurship. But with these qualifications, I think that makes a technology entrepreneur.
Muruga, one line.
It's a power of the idea and the belief, passion, and perseverance.
So ladies and gentlemen, power of the idea, perseverance, passion, madness is what startups and entrepreneurship is all about. Any questions? We've got precisely 6 minutes for questions, so maybe 3 questions. Yes.
Thank you very much for the information. I am Dr. Madhivanan, Chairman of the EDC cell established by Government of India and the Ministry of Science and Technology. The thing is, you speak about incubators, entrepreneurs, women entrepreneurs, startup, so many things, engine investors, so many things. But practically it's not happening. There are 2 kinds of incubators. One is non-funded, another is funded. Non-funded incubators are active. Funded incubators schemes are there. Say NASSCOM has got many schemes. Okay, like that, NEETS is one scheme given, but hardly people get the names because a lot of restrictions. People cannot approach at all. Likewise, entrepreneurs, even though they go, the mentorship can be given, but funding and marketing is the main drawbacks in the incubators and the startups. People have the idea, but converting the idea into action, there are many restrictions prevailing by provided by the state government, the financial institutions. So how to overcome? Really, to become an entrepreneur, these supports are required. One word I would like to say about entrepreneur, you said about many words, passion is the only word is required. That is, we don't have that because of facilities are not there. And schemes are announced. So how to implement it? That's my question.
That's a rather long question, but...
No, look, the good thing is that, as I told you, compared to when we started, where there hardly any startup funding or angel investors available. Today there is so many angel investors. In South alone, I have 6 incubators or so. Today the angel funding is available. Today one challenge is that the sustenance of angel funding take it to the next level has been a challenge because so many people come in as an angel investor. But having said that, as a country definitely a lot more angel investor. It's still evolving, kind of, because I'm seeing that compared to 15 years ago, things are much better than what it was earlier. It's a work in action, it's continually progressing, making efforts. Today, we know the government talking about startups, state government talking about startups, so many entrepreneurs scaled up, multi-billion-dollar companies, all these kind of one support each other. I know that overall ecosystem getting better. But having said that, as a country, we definitely long way to go. We're still talking about the Indian companies, kind of creating success in India. Look at a global company. Many other global companies, like, kind of, they've taken the world as a market. So now we are kind of creating a success in India. Definitely a lot more to be done. And it will eventually evolve and get better and create a global company out of India. Again, there's no simple solution to it. It's a work in progress. It's continuing to get better. That's what I said.
Any more questions?
Yeah, we'll just take one more question, if there are any. All right. So we'll just wrap up things.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thanks a ton. Thank you for speaking on the entrepreneurial space and just how India is emerging as the world's fastest growing startup ecosystem. I would like to call on stage Mr. C.K. Kumaravel of Naturals to please come and felicitate our guests. Please do accept a small token of our appreciation for your time and for your presence at the India Today Conclave South. Ladies and gentlemen, let's just please give our guests a huge round of applause. Thank you so much. That's nice. That's the first selfie. Thank you. Thank you so much. Anita, thank you so much. Thanks.